A bit of a homecoming this weekend for America's fastest growing budget racing series, Spec Corvette. 14 drivers have come home to Bowling Green, Kentucky, the home of the Corvette since 1981 and the home to the National Corvette Museum. But this afternoon, we're across the street and we're racing at NCM Motorsports Park for the first of two races on the weekend. And if qualifying race earlier from today is any indication, we are in for a treat. Hi, everyone. Welcome to NCM Motorsports Park for Spec Corvette, presented by Nankang Motorsports Tires. My name is Tom O'Gorman. I'm joined by series co-founder John Wynn, NorCal Regional Director Josh Carroll at the controls of the live stream. We appreciate you joining us live for race one of two. And John, if any indication from qualifying, as I mentioned, we had great battles across the board earlier today, but things are a little different. As you can see, windshield wipers are ablazing and it is a little bit wet out in Bowling Green, Kentucky.
Yeah, these guys have an absolute different racetrack they'd be going on right now as compared to what they had earlier in the race. They've got rain, and also more interestingly, some of the guys, one of the guys specifically, Rod Markovitz, got pulled and just DQ'd for sound. So not only are these guys running against the rain and the weather and the cold, but they also have to make sure they're making sound. So there's a couple different things going on here with a fairly new track to most of these guys. So lots of different challenges that these racers are going after right now.
There's a look at NCM Motorsports Park. It's a 3.2-mile road course with 23 corners. There's a lot of different style corners, high-speed sweepers, a lot of elevation, some low-speed corners, and as you can see, a number of sequences of corners that makes wheel-to-wheel racing a little bit more challenging than a more traditional road course where you might have one or two corners packaged together between straightaways, especially down in the turns 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 into turn 12 and 13. Those are, by most measures, a single file sequence of corners. But if you get creative enough, you can gain positions. And earlier today in qualifying, it wasn't qualifying race, but the fastest lap of the race is what counted for the grid. Christopher Heinzen was able to take the win, but he will line up second to pole sitter Ben Hocevar, who set the fastest lap of the race at a 2:20.6 by 0.2 of a second over Heinzen. Third quickest was actually the seventh place finisher, Larry Brady, lining up alongside Ole Thordarson. Then Wade Cottle and Tyler Chantrine will line up side by side on the third row, where Chantrine was in the top four earlier today. Johnny Wong was fifth. Rod Markovitz was that DQ that you mentioned earlier for sound. He will line up just alongside Wong. Cecil Stevens and Frank Reinert will line up side by side in the next row. Then Taylor Ramey and Alexis Hocevar, with Walt Davison bringing up the caboose on the grid for today's Spec Corvette racing. Should mention there are other classes on the track. So one of the things to deal with earlier today for these drivers was navigating some slower traffic in other classes. They're only racing against each other, but they got to share that space. And that's just another thing, along with this rain, to get thrown into making this first race pretty exciting, I think.
Yeah, and I think one of the benefits that we run with Spec Corvette is the fact that we run a 200 treadwear NS2R Nankang street tire. And the great thing about that is when it rains, we don't have to change to rain tires, nor do we have to bring extra sets of tires for rain. So a big benefit there. And we've also seen in SCCA races that some of the guys that run Spec Corvette run their NS2R tires in the rain and actually do really well against others that are running Hoosier Rains. So these tires, these street tires, do really well in rain and give, a really nice advantage in road holding grip in the wet weather. So we should have some good action today.
Yeah, another thank you to the presenting partner, Nankang Motorsports Tires, for that spec tire, the NS2R. Also to the rest of the partners for the series as the field packs and pairs up through the last couple of corners. Penske Racing Shocks, FFP Racing Fire Systems, trackspec Motorsports, redlineracinoil, wilwood brakes, and Sparco safety equipment, along with Spec Racing wheels. We are along board right now in the middle of the pack as the field is coming to the green flag. We're following just behind the 53 of Frank Reinert. So this is along board Alexis Hocevar coming to the green flag. This is on row 5 of Spec Corvette. So the whole field of cars that you see, yellow, black, white, or red, Those are all in class. 14 cars from across the country. Every region of Spec Corvette driver is represented. And there's the green flag. It's a big jump for Alexis Hocevar, picking up at least 2 positions right off the green flag, straight down to the inside, and everyone braking nice and early. They don't know exactly what kind of conditions we're coming up on, but they're still 3 wide.
Look how tight they are. Wow. That is very tight in there into that first turn with wet, slippery conditions. These guys are going 3 wide, unbelievable into turn 1. No contact. Looks like everything came out clean there. What an exciting start to the race.
Yeah, that was really well done. We're not through it yet, though. This is down into turn 2, and I'm still super impressed we made it through 3 wide. This track is not too bad in the wet as far as wet tracks go. Some other tracks in the country can get really, really treacherous. This one's not too bad, but we're headed up towards turn 5 now. Still riding along with Alexis Hocevar. And I think that might have been Cecil Stevens that was up the inside in that red number 17, memory serves. Now streaming through as we jump up to
this is inside Cecil Stevens' car, number 17. Looks like, yep. So it looks like he's behind, I believe it's either Wayne Cottle or Chris Heinzen. So the question is, how many of these guys are actually running their traction control on? Do you think it's an advantage?
I honestly am not sure. I wouldn't think so. I think that I would rather have the traction control off and trust physics over the electronics of my car. But I can definitely tell you that these drivers are being very cautious in these unknown conditions. The qualifying race earlier today was completely dry. So this is absolutely outside of everyone's comfort zone. You can see a little bit of slipping and sliding a couple cars ahead as we're still 2 wide. That is, what is that? The 18 of Johnny Wong, I think, up the inside as someone goes for a big slide.
Looks like Ole Thordarson went for a big sideways move there as his wipers are going ferociously there.
So we can guarantee Thordarson is not running the traction control in that number in that number 22 car. Was the hard charger from this morning's race and started 4th. There was someone off, though. I think that might have been one of the yellow cars, Wong or perhaps Larry Brady, who was much further. It looks like it might have been Brady, as we're still following the 17 of Cecil Stevens. And as we get more that come across the start-finish line from that first lap, we'll get a good rundown of where everything is sorted out. As the visibility is really tough with all of the spray coming off these cars. Another car off to the left, that might have been one of the black Corvettes from a little further up the road. And there's, as we mentioned, a different class car.
That car, I would expect that different class car should be moving pretty well with all that aero on it. I'm surprised there's Spec Corvettes moving around it. So
just goes to show maybe the tire is the car to have the tire to have in these conditions, or just the trust in the car. These drivers are having a little more trust than that big aero Mustang that we are trying to find a way around for Alexis Hocevar. And this is one of those sequences where you just kind of have to stay single file unless you get brave. And in these conditions, getting brave is tough. But we're finishing up the first lap, corner number 23 onto the front straightaway at NCM Motorsports Park. And Hocevar's able to put the pedal down and drive around the Mustang. Fortunately, has lost touch of the drivers in front by quite a ways.
Looks like we're in the car of Larry Brady right now, and that I believe is Christopher Heinzen or Wayne Cottle. Christopher Heinzen took the first place last race, did a really nice job holding off hot shoe Ben Hocevar from the NOLA region. Chris Heinzen's first win of the season with Spec Corvette, and this is the biggest race he's attended. I believe he's been at NCM before. This is one of the Great Lakes region's home tracks that they travel to, but did a great job holding off Ben. And let's see if he's got the ketchup for the mustard to put the mustard down on these guys in the rain.
Yeah, and last time across the line, Ben Hocevar was leading. Now we don't see him in frame right now, but we're riding along, as you said, with Larry Brady, following Christopher Heinzen. Across the line, it was Hocevar, Heinzen, Thordarson, Shantren, Brady were the top 5. The hard charger of the start was Alexis Hocevar, who we rode along with for the first part of that lap, up from, I think, 12th on the grid to 8th when they crossed the start-finish line, and unfortunately lost touch with the field a little bit, dealing with that lap traffic. But now this battle for what I believe is second place. We can't see Ben Hocevar, who maybe made a mistake. Look at how slippery it is, though. Just big tank slapper coming into turn 10. Putting the pedal down. It looks like Heinzen's not using the traction control either. Gets the back end stepped out. So sure enough, that is Brady. And now we're alongside, along the car just behind, which I think is.
That is Larry Brady, 58.
Larry Brady. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. We are in Cecil Stevens' car. believe there, and it looks like
Yep.
he just passed Larry Brady on the left, and he's going after, I believe it is Christopher Heinzen in front.
So
me take a
Cecil
look at the lap
Stevens
times.
was seventh across the line last time across, and now we're most of the way through lap number 2. It makes that great move on Larry Brady, and now we're back on with Brady behind Stevens. And a number of cars maybe ducking to pit lane, but still trying to chase down Heinzen's. You see the front end not really wanting to hook up, trying to get set up to come down into the 4 or 5 story drop into the sinkhole, and then a quick rise back up into those final turns 21, 2, and 3 to finish off the second lap of this 25-minute race. Timing and scoring showing 11.5 minutes complete already, so the timer may have started for that really slow outlap, and this one might be a little bit short on green flag running, but we are as far as we know, about 11.5 minutes into this 25-minute race. So closing in on halfway already, even though it's only 2 laps complete. And wow, look at that. You can see Brady's just wiping his windshield with a rag, leaned forward and trying to clean off any fog that he can get.
I don't know how he got his hands that far forward with being belted in so tight, but this is one of the things that is, as a decision as a Spec Corvette when you build it, is do I take out the defroster? And I've seen situations where you absolutely need it. And one of the benefits of building a Spec Corvette is the minimum weight that we have. You actually can leave the air conditioning in without it being grossly overweight. You actually just make weight when you leave the AC in and have no ballast. So a lot of us run ballast in the car, so you're able to leave the AC and the defroster in for situations like this. And you can see some of the cars have zero fog on the windshield. So I think they are running their defrosters and the wipers at the same time, and that's an absolute advantage in a race like this.
Yeah, I can tell you, if I can have the blower, I definitely want it in there. And there's a little bit of fog on the bottom of that was Brady's car. Cecil Stevens looks clear. He has great visibility onto the back end of, I think it's Christopher Heinzen. And doesn't look like timing and scoring updated for me last time across the line.
Yeah, so that's definitely, I believe that's Cecil's car, because I remember when he was building his Spec Corvette, he wanted to keep his AC in for those hot Florida nights.
That's probably, that's interesting, down to wherever the cars are from. We have drivers from New Orleans, California, Florida, Michigan, all corners of the country. There's even cars being built in New Jersey. So we're coast to coast here in Spec Corvette. Whoa, it's a big spin.
Whoa,
that
big
is
spin.
That's where Cecil Stevens spinning in deception as the car crested. I think he was able to keep it out of the tire wall, and he's gotten avoided by a couple of other cars. I'm looking at the other window on my screen, and he is resumed. There he is now. So it's a harmless spin. Lost a little bit of track position from that one.
Is he facing the right direction?
He is, yes. He's
okay.
Headed the right way. And I saw a couple other cars dodging off of the track to make sure they didn't get into him. But he actually may be pulling off to the side to let some guys go by. Might be reeling a little bit from getting caught out by those conditions. I think that was another one of the Spec Corvettes, Frank Reinhardt, driving by. But we're going to hop back in with Larry Brady, who's still got Christopher Heinzen in his sights. And now I'm waiting for my timing and scoring to update maybe this time across to see where everybody is lined up. This is out of the sinkhole into the last couple of corners. And 380 horsepower cap, as you said, the minimum weight. What is the minimum weight, by the way?
3,200 pounds.
Okay, so 3,200 pounds with driver and almost 400 horsepower, trying to clear the windshield once again for Larry Brady. But these cars are going to be a little bit of a handful.
Yeah, these guys have their hands full. But luckily they got good equipment with the Penske Racing shocks, letting them get onto the curbing and getting as much grip as humanly possible on these wet conditions with the NCM tires and the wilwood brakes. All these cars, just about all of them, run the factory ABS system. It is a requirement, but we have grandfathered in a couple cars that have been built without it or had been bought without it. But at a time like now, ABS is absolutely a necessity.
Yeah, it just gives you that confidence to put the pedal down and know the car is going to stop in these treacherous conditions. And one of the trickiest spots on the track is right where we are with Larry Brady. There's a big river that runs across the track about halfway through turn 5. And turn 5 in the dry, you're coming in at about 120, almost 130 miles an hour. The minimum speed for that corner is just under 100 miles an hour in one of these cars. So it's really moving fast. They're still slipping and sliding now, trying to navigate some of this lap traffic. But as you come into that corner, you see the river, and you just hope that it doesn't hydroplane you off the track. And this has brought this battle between Heinzen and Brady back into the fray. Unfortunately, still timing and scoring is down for me. I don't know if it's up for you, but I don't know exactly which position this is in battle for. It says for second, but we don't know exactly where Thordarson, Chantrine, and especially Hocevar, if they're further up the road or behind. Ooh, that was tight between Heinzen and the other lap car. They were trying to go side by side into deception, but they had to back out.
Here. Absolutely, there's tons of lap traffic here, and I'm genuinely surprised at how well these Corvettes are doing with the basic builds that they are. You know, against these full aero cars, that looks like a GT4 Cayman or something along those lines with full aero. And I'm sure maybe Hoosier Slicks, and these cars are just going right around without an issue.
Heinzen was able to put the power down along the back straight and get up by that Cayman, and now Larry Brady has done the same going into Faux Rouge. That's turn 15, working their way turns 16 and 17 now down into turn 18, which is where pit entry is, and will set his sights back on the back bumper of the 69 car for Heinzen.
Inside Alexis Hocevar's car, number 26, NOLA region, father and son combination. And I believe Ben is up front and father is in the rear.
Well, we actually hope Alexis has done a really good charge through the field. If we're looking at those positions correctly, this might be up inside the top 5 for Alexis Hocevar, who finished 11th or 12th in the qualifying race. So this is a great performance. Maybe Alexis has something in the rain that the rest of these drivers haven't quite figured out, but he's showing the nose, trying to fill the mirrors a little bit for Brady. This time across the line, my timing and scoring updated partially. It looks like Ben Hocevar is at the front with Ollie Thordarson only about 2 seconds back, and then it's a big gap back to Christopher Heinzen, who's the red Corvette that we've been following, with Larry Brady just behind and Alexis Hocevar. So indeed, if timing and scoring is showing me correctly, doing this remotely, we have to trust it, and I think this is the battle for 4th, 5th, and 6th between these drivers.
Yeah, lots of swaps right there on my latest update in positioning. So I see Ben out front, Ole, Christopher Hines, and Tyler Chantrine now in 4th place, with Wayne Cottle following behind. Looks like a little under 7 minutes to go for a 25-minute race.
Yeah, 25-minute race, 18.5 minutes complete from NCM Motorsports Park. And don't have to worry about getting the Nankangs too greasy on this one. They're just getting up to temperature, I have to suspect. So every driver learning something new every time they lap this track, which was a new track for them in the general. Most of the field had not been to this track. And now we threw a bunch of water on it and told them to go splash around and have some fun. And they're doing so. Still running along with Alexis Hocevar down into turn 10, working lap 5 right now of this 25-minute race. So we should get 1 or 2 more laps in there, maybe 7, total of 8 laps. I'm not sure.
I wonder if any of the drivers actually try to strategically up their tire pressures to combat, tires not coming up to temperature, not getting the full roundness of the tire. That's some of the tuning that these guys can do to the tire to make sure you have a full surface area on the track. But when you don't have full temperature, you can't get the pressures up, and sometimes the tires can be cupped if you under pressure them. So I'm wondering if any of these guys that actually tried to dial these pressures in bumped up their pressure a little bit to try to get the tire to their hot pressures.
It's Larry Brady dropping 2, exiting turn 17, and hangs onto it, but goes for a big slide. That was a hairy moment, and he's pushing hard. He's actually running down Christopher Heinzen. So this is a good drive for Brady. I was going to say the other part to that is if anybody was strategic enough to bring a set of sticker tires that are full tread, obviously they're running full tread 200 tread wear tires. But if you've got fresh ones that can sipe that water a little bit better than maybe some worn out ones, if anybody bolted up some stickers, that might be the key for this race. Now, it looks like Heinzen has caught up to a group of cars that may also be Corvettes. So Heinzen potentially has run down Hocevar and Thordarson, but with the spray, it's kind of hard to see exactly if that's the case. We have a couple safety vehicles exiting the pit lane to go rescue a couple of the cars that are spread around the track. But that does appear to be a black Corvette a little bit in front of Christopher Heinzen, which could be Ben Hocevar. Is that right?
If we are in, wow, that was a nice. Whoa, a little bit of contact right there into a lap traffic car.
So a touch for.
We're inside Brady's car, a little car, Gabe continues to go.
Yeah, I tried to show the nose down into turn
Lots of
2, and
excitement.
the lapped car didn't see him, turned down and sent him for a spin. So it looks like it's fairly harmless for Larry Brady, other than a little bit of track distance lost. Now we're jumping back to Alexis Hocevar, who would have watched all that unfold and attempted to try to run him back down. This is looking to be the white flag lap. As we see timing and scoring crosses over to the checkered flag for the overall race leader. So this is going to be our last look at NCM Motorsports Park in the wet for today, race 1. And as we know, Ben Hocevar at the front. I think Ole Thordarson is second, Christopher Heinzen third, who got a breather there with that little bit of contact between Larry Brady and a lapped car. Alexis Hocevar, we believe, is still running 5th. They're about halfway through this lap in turn 10, working their way towards Deception now.
So Spec Corvette for this race has one of the biggest, if not the biggest, fields here. So I wonder how the lap traffic's going to feel about all these Corvettes charging through there and getting to the front of the pack in the race. But
sure,
certainly heavy numbers, 14 cars on grid, which is a record for Spec Corvette, and is the largest group in the NASA Central or Great Lakes region race this weekend.
Which is great to see because they look like a blast, and it's cool to see what we call the fastest growing budget racing series turning into some of the fastest cars on track in these conditions out at NCM Motorsports Park.
Absolutely.
So this is, again, white flag lap from race 1, riding along with Alexis Hocevar, running 5th position, just out of touch from Larry Brady, who had a small contact with a lapped car and lost his touch from Christopher Heinzen. I'm waiting to see when the first Spec Corvette comes across the finish line. There it is. Ben Hocevar just ticks across and takes the win in race 1 after a slight mistake in qualifying race kept him from winning. He still was on pole and wins from pole for race 1. Second across, looks like Ole Thordarson dropped to about 12 seconds back of Hocevar and crosses then. Now Christopher Heinzen is across. Larry Brady and Alexis Hocevar should be the top 5, as a couple other drivers have not clicked through on their final lap on my timing screen.
If we're inside Alexis Hocevar's car, it looks like Rod Markovitz, if they're still racing, looks like Rod Markovitz just got right by Alexis. So that might be a pass there if they're still under green conditions, which I think they are.
Well, I think, unless timing is misleading us again, the checkered flag came out last time through, so that might be checkered. But you're right; it does look like they're still at pace.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks
So
like
the
they're moving
65
pretty
car
good.
of Markovitz.
Sean, we're getting ready to pull up here in a couple seconds.
Safety vehicles off to the left, attending to a couple of vehicles, but it looks like Alexis Hocevar doesn't have the pace to hold on to the back of Rod Markovitz, who has now set his sights on Larry Brady. That's the yellow Corvette of Brady, and then the blue and green number 65 of Markovitz, who was unfortunately disqualified from qualifying this morning due to that sound infraction, as you mentioned. So he is doing a good charge back through the field, and that might put him in a pretty good spot for tomorrow's race number 2, which is at 11:20 Central Time, 11:20 a.m. Central Time. So if you want to join us again for that race, race 2 will also be live streamed, but this is the view from Larry Brady's Corvette. Still in touch to, looks like we now might be on the cooldown. So pretty sure we have taken the checkered flag. Yes, things definitely look a little more chill.
Yes.
So there's the a little bit skewed. Not entirely sure as to exactly.
Looks like
where
Larry's
everybody
cleaning
finished.
his dashboard. Looks like Larry's cleaning his dashboard off, though. I think we're done.
Yeah. So Ben Hocevar taking the win, set himself as the guy to beat in all sessions as far as pace goes, and takes the win in race number 1. Ole Thordarson being scored 2nd place, Christopher Heinzen being scored 3rd, Tyler Chantrine, who we didn't see much of, but that was the black Corvette that we suspected Wayne Cottle might have been running down. He was 4th. Wayne Cottle, who we didn't see much of on camera either, was 5th. Larry Brady 6th. Alexis Hocevar spent a lot of time riding with Alexis, finishes 7th. Rob Markovitz almost made it to his bumper, but didn't quite get the job done before the checkered flag. He'll come home 8th, with Taylor Ramey and Frank Reinhardt being the top 10. Walt Davison improves 2 positions up to 11th, with Johnny Wong and Cecil Stevens rounding out the 13 car field that took the green flag. So we missed one of those cars. Of the 14 in present, 13 took the green flag, but that was race 1. Very, very different race from what we expected to see based on this morning's dry qualifying. I think we're going to have most crossed fingers for more dry racing tomorrow. But these guys might have had a blast in the rain too, picking off faster cars, as you mentioned.
As they say, the art of racing in the rain.
Yeah.
And racing in the rain is one of my favorite things to do because the field just gets completely reset. And there's a lot of different things that come into play now and levels the playing field. So excellent showing of the race cars, and looks like they had a good time out there, and no major wrecks that I could see, which is I'm really pleased with. So looks like an overall pretty good race.
Yeah, we'll call it a success for race 1 of Spec Corvette at NCM Motorsports Park. Another big thank you to all of our partners for the series, the Penske Racing Shocks, the official coilover of Spec Corvette, Nankang Motorsports, of course, the presenting partner with the Spec NS2R 295 tire wrapped around Spec Racing, the official wheels, along with prefabbed rope cages. FFP Racing Fire Systems, Wilwood Brakes, Trackspec Motorsports, Redlineracinoil, Wilwood, and Sparco. Again, Spec Corvette presented by Nankang Motorsports Tires. Thank you all for tuning in with us. We'll see you tomorrow for race number 2, the invert race at 11:20 a.m. Central.